so to do. None of the sums of money paid out to individuals in assistance or in insurance will spell anything approaching abundance. But they will furnish that minimum necessity to keep a foothold. And that is the kind of protection Americans want. Truer words could never have been spoken. That is the type of protection that we should be building upon here in the United States Congress, not undermining. President Franklin D. Roosevelt went on to say, "What we are doing is good, but it is not good enough. To be truly national, a Social Security program must include all those who need its protection." Today, many of our citizens are still excluded from old age insurance and unemployment compensation because of the nature of their employment. This must be set aright, and it will be. FDR continues to say to the American people, "I am hopeful that on the basis of studies and investigations now underway, the Congress will improve and extend the law. I'm also confident that each year will bring further development in federal and state Social Security legislation. And that is as it should be." One word of warning, however, in our efforts to provide security for all of the American people, let us not allow ourselves to be misled by those who advocate shortcuts to utopia of fantastic financial schemes. We have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. There is still today a frontier that remains unconquered, in America unclaimed. This is the nationwide frontier of insecurity, of human want and fear. This is the frontier, the America we have set ourselves to reclaim. President Franklin D. Roosevelt pioneered Social Security, but recognized that the work was unfinished, even as it related to making sure every single American, regardless of race or position in life, would have Social Security to be able to live out their golden years with grace and dignity. President Franklin D. Roosevelt talked about this frontier that America must continue to pursue, conquering the frontier of insecurity, of human want and fear. That's leadership. That's what we should be doing here in the United States of America, Mr. Speaker, not enacting devastating cuts to health care that will hurt millions of everyday Americans. All of this is also unfolding in an environment where Social Security is now under attack. That's extraordinary to me. Social Security is a sacred promise, a sacred trust between the American people and its stewards, her stewards in government. So I'm so thankful for leadership as it relates to Social Security from people like Congressman John Larson, who recognizes that our goals recognizes that leadership is not attacking Social Security. We as House Democrats, led by John Larson, are determined to protect and strengthen Social Security for the American people. Keeping FDR's promise of conquering that frontier of financial insecurity. That's what we should be doing here in the United States Congress, not attacking the social safety net, Mr. Speaker. Many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they constantly call things like Social Security and Medicare entitlement programs. I think they label Social Security and Medicare entitlement programs, and by the way, as a result of this one big ugly bill, Medicare will be cut potentially by more than $500 billion, the largest cut to Medicare in American history, set in motion by Donald Trump's one big ugly bill, and now co-signed, it appears, by House Republicans. Mr. Speaker, House Republicans who've also co-signed this extraordinary assault on Social Security, closing offices, cutting off access to phone service, making it harder for seniors to access their hard-earned benefits. Social Security is not an entitlement program. Medicare is not an entitlement program, Mr. Speaker. I learned this very early on in life. When I was 15 years old, I secured my first job. I was a messenger traveling from office to office in Midtown Manhattan, delivering mail, delivering packages. I was just a sophomore at Midwood High School in Brooklyn, my first job, earning minimum wage, $3.35 an hour. Thankful for that money, having been raised by my mom and dad in a working class neighborhood in central Brooklyn, $3.35 an hour, coming of age in the middle of the crack cocaine epidemic in central Brooklyn. And I couldn't wait to get my first check. And I was told that because I was working part-time and I was a high school student, that the money that I made would not be taxed. And so as I was anticipating that first check, I multiplied the amount that I was making, $3.35 per hour, by the number of hours that I expected to work during that pay period. I calculated the total, and Mr. Speaker, that money was already spent. I couldn't wait to go to Albee Square Mall in Brooklyn and get some new sneakers so I could look fresh like Run DMC. Money was already spent. Mr. Speaker, because I was told that as a high school student working part-time, my first job, the money that I would make would not be taxed. And then I got my first check. And I had two questions, Mr. Speaker. Who is FICA? And why is he taking my money? You see, Mr. Speaker, what I learned is that every single American, from your first job to every single job that you hold until your last job, pays into Social Security and Medicare through FICA. Social Security and Medicare aren't entitlement programs, they are earned benefits. Earned benefits that people work hard for, earn throughout their entire life, and that they deserve. So keep your hands off Social Security and Medicare, the earned benefits of the American people. Hands off these earned benefits. Extraordinary that as a result of this one big ugly bill, Medicare could be cut by more than $500 billion, and these earned benefits of the American people could be jeopardized. Others have noted that because of Donald Trump's one big ugly bill, the insolvency of Social Security and Medicare could be accelerated. This is the exact opposite of that sacred charge that President Franklin D. Roosevelt articulated to the nation as he reflected upon the important first step that was taken with the establishment of Social Security. He's not the only one. This is a great country, an exceptional country. So many examples of what leadership actually looks like. Leadership that we are not seeing right now from the majority in the House of Representatives. Leadership that we did not see on the Republican side of the aisle in the United States Senate in passing this disgusting abomination, and certainly we're not seeing this level of leadership coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But I'm thankful that we have examples of leadership echoing throughout our history that we can reflect upon and be inspired by as we navigate our way through these challenging times. President Truman, from the great state of Missouri, Emanuel Cleaver State, the good Reverend Dr. Emanuel Cleaver, my friend and my mentor, President Truman, shortly after ending World War II, we're so thankful for the sacrifice and the bravery and the courage of the greatest generation. A few months after he unexpectedly became president, replaced the great FDR. November 19th, 1945, he delivered a special message to Congress recommending a comprehensive health program. I want to read just a few of those words because it shows us what leadership actually looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like to have presidential leadership that we in Congress should aspire to working with, as opposed to bending the knee to an extreme agenda reflected in this one big, ugly bill. President Truman said to this Congress in a statement recommending a comprehensive health program, millions of our citizens do not now have a full measure of opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health. Millions do not now have protection or security against the economic effects of sickness. The time has arrived for action to help them obtain that opportunity and that protection. Truman goes on to say, President Truman goes on to say, our new Economic Bill of Rights should mean health security for all, regardless of residence, station, or race, everywhere in the United States of America. He says, regardless of residence, station, or race, that's presidential leadership. That brings people together, doesn't seek to divide us, which is what unfortunately is happening in the United States of America right now. President Truman goes on to say to Congress, we should resolve now that the health of this nation is a national concern, that financial barriers in the way of attaining health shall be removed, that the health of all its citizens deserves the help of all the nation. Truman goes on to articulate the challenges that exist in America as it relates to illnesses. He articulates several of them, talks about the deficiencies in health care that existed across America, and the fact that in the aftermath of World War II, it was clear that so many people without coverage were medically infirm. And he made clear that's unacceptable in the United States of America. He articulated a forward-looking vision for universal health care, aspirational vision, a vision designed to lift the American people up, not rip health care away from them, which is what this one big, ugly bill will do, ripping health care away for more than 17 million Americans. That's shameful. It disgusts me that we're on the floor of the House of Representatives right now, having to push back so aggressively against an all-out assault on the health care of the American people when we should be trying to lift them up in a manner consistent, Mr. Speaker, with what President Truman once charged this Congress with doing. And of course, he wasn't the only one. We're thankful for other leaders who worked with this Congress in prior years to actually advance the health, safety, and well-being of the American people. President Lyndon Baines Johnson, in connection with the Great Society, inspired in part by his own experiences growing up in the hill country of Texas, seeing rural poverty and the devastating impacts of it. Something that he was inspired to address, as opposed to this one big, ugly Republican bill that will result in rural hospitals closing in the United States of America. That's not the type of leadership that this country needs, that rural America needs. Thankful that we have examples of the type of leadership that hopefully, Mr. Speaker, we can aspire to achieving in this country. President Lyndon Baines Johnson, in connection with the signing of Medicare and Medicaid, spoke to the American people. He said, because the need for this action is plain, and it is so clear indeed that we marvel not simply at the passage of this bill, but what we marvel at is that it took so many years to pass it. And I am so glad that Amy Forand is here to see it finally passed and signed, one of the first authors. There are more than 18 million Americans over the age of 65. Most of them have low incomes. Most of them are threatened by illness and medical expenses that they cannot afford. And through this new law, Mr. President, every citizen will be able, in his productive years, when he is earning, to insure himself against the ravages of illness in his old age. President Johnson was referring to President Harry Truman, who was there at the signing ceremony, having recognized President Truman's vision. He says, and through this new law, Mr. President, every citizen will be able, in his productive years, when he is earning, to insure himself against the ravages of illness in his old age. That was the beauty of Medicare. You pay into it, it's an earned benefit. And you can reap the benefits in your golden years. President Johnson went on to say, this insurance will help pay for care in hospitals, in skilled nursing homes, or in the home. It's ironic. That's what presidential leadership looks like. LBJ says this insurance will help pay for care in hospitals, in skilled nursing homes, or in the home. And yet, Mr. Speaker, we're here 60 years later, And Republicans are trying to jam a budget down the throats of the American people that will close hospitals, close nursing homes, and detonate the ability of millions of people to access home care. That's shameful. It's not the type of leadership that this country needs right now, but that's what we're getting. Chaos, cruelty, and corruption. President Johnson went on to talk about Medicaid, which is the subject of an all-out assault now by this reckless Republican budget, the GOP tax scam, this one big ugly bill. So I want to make sure that the record reflects what enlightened leadership had to say about Medicaid. The benefits under the law are as varied and broad as the marvelous modern medicine itself. If it has a few defects, such as the method of payment of certain specialists, then I'm confident those can be quickly remedied, and I hope they will be. No longer will older Americans be denied the healing miracle of modern medicine. No longer will illness crush and destroy the savings that they have so carefully put away over a lifetime so that they may enjoy dignity in their later years. No longer will young families see their own incomes and their own hopes eaten away. No longer will this nation refuse the hand of justice to those who have given a lifetime of service and wisdom and labor to the progress of this progressive country. Medicare and Medicaid benefit older Americans right now. People who have given a lifetime of service and wisdom and labor to the progress of this progressive country, as LBJ spoke to. And this bill, Mr. President, again, a nod to President Harry Truman, is even broader than that. It will increase Social Security benefits for all of our older Americans. It will improve a wide range of health and medical services for Americans of all ages. And then President Lyndon Baines Johnson leans in on the importance of Medicaid with a greater degree of precision. He says, but there is another tradition that we share today. Calls upon us never to be indifferent toward despair, commands us never to turn away from helplessness. It directs us never to ignore or to spurn those who suffer untended in a land that is bursting with abundance. And this is not just our tradition, or even the tradition of the nation. It is as old as the day it was first commanded. Thou shalt open thine hand wide unto thy brother, to thy poor, to thy needy in thy land. Is that what we're doing here today in the United States Congress? Opening our hands of grace and compassion and responsibility to our fellow Americans, our fellow citizens? No, that's not what Donald Trump's one big ugly bill is all about. It's an assault on everyday Americans to reward billionaires with massive tax breaks. That's extraordinary. President Clinton in the 1990s talked about the Children's Health Insurance Program. Program designed to make sure that children in this country would have access to the medical care they needed to live a life of dignity and respect. And it's extraordinary to me, Mr. Speaker, that in Donald Trump's one big ugly bill, the eligibility for the Children's Health Insurance Program will also be diminished as part of an all-out assault on the health care of the American people. So I thought it not robbery in the time that I have that we lift up the original spirit of the Children's Health Insurance Program. President Clinton said to the nation, because we have acted, millions of children across this country will be able to get medicine and have their sight and hearing tested and see dentists and doctors for the first time. Millions of young Americans will be able to go on to college. Millions of Americans not so young will be able to go back to school to get the education and training they need to succeed in life. Millions of families will have more to spend on their own children's needs and upbringing. This budget is an investment in their future and in America's. You see, budgets are moral documents. And in our view, Mr. Speaker, budgets should be designed to lift people up. This reckless Republican budget that we are debating right now on the floor of the House of Representatives tears people down. This reckless Republican budget is an immoral document. And everybody should vote no against it because of how it attacks children and seniors and everyday Americans and people with disabilities. This reckless Republican budget is an immoral document. And that is why I stand here on the floor of the House of Representatives with my colleagues in the House Democratic Caucus to stand up and push back against it with everything we have on behalf of the American people. In the spirit of John Lewis, show up, stand up, and speak up for what we know is right. It's an immoral document that we're debating right now on the House of Representatives. This budget also represents an attack on the Affordable Care Act. For some reason, Republicans have been obsessed, Mr. Speaker, with attacking the Affordable Care Act. Gave it a nickname, Obamacare. But the great Jim Clyburn flipped the script and said, yes, it's Obamacare because President Barack Obama cares about the American people, just like we do as House Democrats. That's not what is being reflected right now on the other side of the aisle. We care about the American people. We care about their health. We care about their safety. We care about their well-being. And so I'm proud to stand here on the floor saying, yeah, we're going to continue to defend Obamacare. until the very end, no matter what it takes. So President Obama spoke to this Congress as well. We talked about presidential leadership. We've seen it year after year, decade after decade, century after century. President Lincoln, President Roosevelt, President Truman, President Johnson, President Clinton, President Obama lifting up the American people. On the health care issue. So I think it's important that these words as well continue to echo out throughout America. President Obama said that there's still tremendous hardship all across the country. But there is a sense that we are making progress because of you. But even before this crisis, he of course speaks about the Great Recession. Even before this crisis, each and every one of us knew that there were millions of Americans across America, millions of people across America who are living their own quiet crises. Maybe because they had a child who had a pre-existing condition. And no matter how desperate they were, no matter what insurance company they called, they couldn't get coverage for that child. Maybe it was somebody who had been forced into early retirement in their 50s, not yet eligible for Medicare. And they couldn't find a job. And they couldn't find health insurance. Despite the fact that they had some sort of chronic condition that had to be tended to. And now we're on the threshold of doing something about it, he said to the United States Congress, Speaker Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi and others who were great partners in this effort. He said, and now we're on the threshold of doing something about it. We're a day away. This is aspirational leadership. After a year of debate, after every argument has been made by just about everybody, we're 24 hours away. But it may also be possible, referring to his critics that existed at the time, who sat on the other side of the aisle. He said, but it may also be possible that they realize after health reform passes and I sign that legislation into law, that it's going to be a little harder to mischaracterize what this effort has been all about. Because this year, small businesses will start getting tax credits so that they can offer health insurance to employees who currently don't have it. Because this year, those same parents who are worried about getting coverage for their children with pre-existing conditions now are assured that insurance companies have to give them coverage this year. Because this year, insurance companies won't suddenly be able to drop your coverage when you get sick, or impose lifetime limits or restrictive limits on the coverage that you have. President Obama went on to say, maybe they know that This year, for the first time, young people will be able to stay on their parents' health insurance until they're 26 years old. The Affordable Care Act was a tremendous step in the right direction. It's aspirational leadership. Tens of millions of Americans now have health insurance coverage as a result of the Affordable Care Act. But this reckless Republican budget, this one big, ugly bill that President Donald Trump has directed my Republican colleagues to sign off on, to recklessly rubber stamp, and to bend the knee to, even though this bill and its assault on health care, on Medicaid, on the Children's Health Insurance Program, on Medicare, and on Obamacare will rip away health care coverage from the people my Republican colleagues are here in Washington to represent. It's extraordinary to me that as a result of this one big ugly bill, this all-out assault on health care in this country, millions of people are going to lose coverage, thrown off of health care, set in motion a chain of events where hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, people unable to get the care that they need to live a life of dignity and respect. And that as a result of the all-out Republican assault on health care in the United States of America, people will die. Tens of thousands, perhaps year after year after year, as a result of the Republican assault on the health care of the American people. I'm sad. I never thought that I'd be on the House floor saying that this is a crime scene. And House Democrats want no part of it. No part of it. It's a crime scene going after the health and the safety and the well-being of the American people. And Mr. Speaker, we want no part of it, which is why we're fighting so hard to stop it. Serving in the United States Congress on this glorious floor, having to be part of a crime scene. Shameful. All-out assault on the American people. President Biden worked hard with many of the people in this Congress who still serve to try to build upon this great legacy, this journey that we've been on, set in motion in modern American presidential history by FDR, inspired by the great vision of President Truman, enhanced in years that were cut short far too early by President Kennedy, and then powered in such an extraordinary way by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. Built upon aspirationally by President Jimmy Carter. And then advanced the Children's Health Insurance Program by President Bill Clinton. furthered in such an extraordinary way by President Barack Obama, and then built upon and enhanced by President Biden. None of us are perfect, but that's part of our march toward a more perfect union. That's part of the charge that we have as public servants, given that sacred charge in the preamble of the United States Constitution. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, leadership that tries to perfect the American journey. President Biden spoke to this in August of 2022, talked about the challenges, pushing back against special interests that are often the forces trying to stop progress on behalf of the American people. This one big, ugly bill is filled with giveaways to special interests. Here in Washington, D.C., I'm disgusted by that. It's not what lawmaking should be about. President Biden, reflecting upon the challenges of making progress on behalf of the American people, says in August of 2022, and yet we've not wavered. We've not flinched. We've not given in. Instead, we're delivering results for the American people. We didn't tear down. We built up. We didn't look back. We looked forward. This law that I'm about to sign finally delivers on a promise that Washington has made for decades to the American people. Guess what? We're giving Medicare the power to negotiate. The power to negotiate lower prices on behalf of the American people. This means seniors, President Biden goes on to say, are going to pay less for their prescription drugs, while we're changing circumstances for people on Medicare by putting a cap of a maximum of $2,000 per year on their prescription drug costs, no matter what the reason for those prescriptions are. That means if you're on Medicare, you'll never have to pay more than $2,000 a year. No matter how many prescriptions you have, whether it's for cancer or any other disease, no more than $2,000 a year. I don't care who in this town is trying to take credit for something accomplished by others. President Joseph Robinette Biden did that. He did that. He did that as part of our effort to lower costs on behalf of the American people. None of us are perfect. There's still work to do. But the 46th President of the United States of America did that. Inflation Reduction Act, he went on to say, locks in lower health care premiums for millions of families who get their coverage under the Affordable Care Act. Last year, a family of four saved on average $2,400 through the American Rescue Plan that I signed into law that Congress voted in place. President Biden's talking about the continuation of our march toward a more perfect union, the work that we in this Congress, many of us who had the privilege to serve over the last few years, did to try to expand and strengthen the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, by enhancing the premium tax credits available so that millions of additional Americans would actually have the ability to get access to health care. And in this one big, ugly bill, Republicans are setting in motion the explosion of those tax credits that are designed to provide affordable health care coverage to the American people. Leadership requires courage, conviction, compassion. And yet what we've seen from this administration and its co-conspirators on the Republican side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, is cruelty, chaos, and corruption. And it's all been morphed into a toxic mix now contained in Donald Trump's one big ugly bill. An extraordinary assault on the health care of the American people. I mentioned earlier, Mr. Speaker, that I've taken to the House floor to share stories from the American people. Stories that are too numerous to articulate in the time available to us in connection with debating this bill. But I'm going to do my best to make sure that we have a representative sample of why so many Americans all across this country went to bed in fear and are now waking up in horror because Republicans are trying to jam this one big ugly bill down the throats of the American people. An assault on health care, an assault on nutritional assistance, an assault on children, an assault on veterans, an assault on farmers, an assault on everyday Americans. Crystal, who's also from the great state of Alaska, said that after my husband passed away suddenly, I was unprepared to pay all the bills as a part-time stay-at-home mom. And working part-time while my young girls were in school. I applied for SNAP benefits. And was so thankful I received them, for it helped me so much. And I was so thankful it put food on our table. I didn't have to worry about how I was going to buy groceries while paying the other bills I had to take care of. The SNAP program has helped me many times, and through those times, I was struggling financially. And so I'm so thankful it was there when I needed it most. I am no longer on the program, but it was one of the biggest blessings in my life. During those hard years after my loss, thank you to the government for helping me. We all need help at times in life. And I think this program should remain available to those who really need it, who are struggling. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing your story with us. Mr. Speaker, Talise wrote to us, lives in Alabama's 5th Congressional District, a district currently represented by Dale Strong. So thankful for the representation of my good friends Terry Sewell and Shamari Figures in the great state of Alabama. Talise writes to us, I'm a single mom doing everything with my one income. My ex-husband refuses to pay child support or split the cost of anything related to my daughter. If it wasn't for SNAP, we'd probably have very little in terms of food because I am always running on E. I'm so beyond grateful for the assistance. Curtis writes to us, Mr. Speaker, from the great state of Arizona, in my disabled senior status, I would be in a dire nutritional status, if not mostly for the SNAP nutritional assistance, a godsend. For so many Americans, that is what SNAP has been, a godsend in a time of need. And now the nutritional assistance benefits will be ripped away from millions of Americans in Donald Trump's one big ugly bill, a bill that Republicans are prepared to recklessly rubber stamp. We also heard from Diana, great state of California. Diana writes, SNAP has helped my family tremendously during this difficult time. We really appreciate all the help. My husband was diagnosed with cancer, and we have a little one at home. It's been difficult taking care of everything. Please keep this benefit to help people get on their feet. Diana lives in the Inland Empire, California's 33rd Congressional District, represented by the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, Pete Aguilar. Diana, Pete Aguilar is fighting hard for you. Just like every single House Democrat are fighting hard for the American people to protect you as best we can from this cruel assault on nutritional assistance. We're going to continue to fight hard for you. in Ohio, Julie writes to us, I'm so thankful for Amelia Sykes, Marcy Kaptur. Marcy Kaptur is the original gangster of the Ohio delegation. The longest serving woman in the history of the United States Congress, fighting hard on behalf of the people she incredibly represents. Along with Amelia and Shontel Brown and Greg Landsman, and of course, y'all know I couldn't leave out my big sister, Joyce Beatty. I wanted to mention Joyce because this is part of the resilience of what we've seen from House Democrats, from Brittany Pedersen, distinguished gentlelady from the great state of Colorado, who gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Sam, at the beginning of this year. But because House Republicans, Mr. Speaker, have refused to allow proxy voting, virtual voting, for expectant mothers and new mothers throughout this year, shortly after giving birth, Congresswoman Brittany Pedersen, each and every week, often with her baby boy, Sam, has come to the United States Congress to stand with House Democrats in defense of the American people. And she did it in connection with that first vote that set this whole disgusting abomination into motion in February. That same day, Kevin Mullin showed up to vote on behalf of the American people. Just like all of us continue to do, Kevin Mullin showed up to vote despite the fact that he had been experiencing multiple surgeries, was dealing with some complications. But he understood, just like all House Democrats understand, the need to stand up in this moment and fight hard for the American people, the need to be here throughout this entire toxic journey that Republicans have set us on. Address the high cost of living. Nothing in this bill will meaningfully lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. Nothing. It's incredible to me. All of the promises that were made by some people in this town. That the top priority was going to be to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. And then, all of last year, ran away from Project 2025. Come on. Come on. Acted like it didn't exist. That's right. And then, Mr. Speaker, people come to town, they're in the majority now, and every single part of the extremism that we've seen unleashed on the American people is connected to Project 2025. Every single part. But here's why Here's why I still got hope, optimism. I referenced this earlier today as we prepare to experience the 249th birthday of the United States of America. Yeah. Take it back to that original document. Yeah. Declaration of Independence, 1776. Mr. Speaker, it had the aspirational part. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, come on now. Bring it home. Endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence. And as House Democrats, we're committed, no matter what it takes, to bring that about. Imagine an America where everyone who works hard and plays by the rules can live the good life, afford to live the good life. Good paying jobs, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. That's what House Democrats are fighting for. That's the aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence, to bring that to life, the pursuit of happiness. That's the aspirational part. But then when you look at that Declaration of Independence, the second part of it, it reads like an indictment against an out-of-control king. Reads like an indictment against an out-of-control king. I commend all '25 comes Project 2026. And you will have an opportunity to end this national nightmare as part of Project 2026. I love the framers. They gave us a blueprint for what should give us hope in this moment.
That's right.
I think that I want to close by referencing
Take your sweet time.
someone who we all serve with. I want to stand on the shoulders, if it's okay, on some of our civil rights heroes and foot soldiers.
Yes, yes.
Those whose character, whose conviction, whose courage should give the American people hope at a moment of great despair. Many of us had the great honor of serving with Congressman John Lewis. The great honor, Mr. Speaker, to serve with Congressman John Lewis.
That's right.
And I came across something that John Lewis said in June of 2028 that hopefully, no matter what the outcome of this vote, will give people some hope. Great John Lewis said, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime." That's our struggle. No matter what, Mr. Speaker, you decide to do today, that's our struggle. Standing on the shoulders of John Lewis, that's our struggle. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get into good trouble. Good trouble. Good trouble. Necessary trouble. Standing on the shoulders of giants, John Lewis would often talk to us about his admiration for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King, who would refer to John Lewis as the boy from Troy.
The boy from Troy.
Now, what's interesting to me, that civil rights movement, we can learn a lot from it. Started December of 1955. And Rosa Parks sat down on that bus so that all of us could have the courage to stand up.
That's right.
Wasn't an easy struggle. All the odds were stacked against these civil rights heroes and foot soldiers. And during the early days of the movement, a difficult part of the movement, Dr. King, after they've been targeted, arrested, beaten, harassed by the authorities, he traveled to Brooklyn, New York,
Yes. Brooklyn.
and spoke at the Concord Baptist Church. I think it was in March of 1956. And he said to a group of people of every race, every religion, every life experience, the Concord Baptist Church in Bedford-Stuyvesant, said to them, no matter what the odds, we've got to press on. Dr. King said that if you can't fly, run.
That's right.
If you can't run, walk.
That's right.
If you can't walk, crawl. But at all times, press on. And keep pressing. And so as I take my seat, I just want to say to the American people that no matter what the outcome is on this singular day,
What the fight forward.
we're going to press on. We're going to press on. We're going to press on. We're going to press on for our children, press on for our seniors, press on for our veterans, press on for our unions, press on for our farmers, press on for our dreamers, press on for working class Americans, press on for the middle class, press on for all who aspire to be part of the middle class, press on for the poor, press on for the sick, press on for the afflicted, press on for the least, press on for the lost, press on for the left behind, press on for the rule of law, press on for the American way of life, press on for democracy. We're going to press on until victory is won. I yield back.
Hakeem. Hakeem. Hakeem.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Well done.
Did he do it? Did he do it? He did it. He did it. Hakeem. 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 Hakeem.
Leaders lead.
Hakeem. 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 Hakeem.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Stay in. You don't need to take an hour.
This gentleman from
Eight
Massachusetts.
hours.
Gentleman
I
from
think it's,
Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's fair to say the leader has done his part. I have no further speakers. I yield back our time.
Gentleman from Massachusetts yield. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 1 minute. You have 2 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, could we have order?
The House will be in order. The House will be in order, please. The House will be in order, please. Thank you. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 1 minute. You have 2 minutes remaining.
Wow, Mr. Speaker. We have stood in this chamber for over 8 hours listening to a lot of words, a lot of comments, a lot of inaccurate statements. And where I come from, could we have order?
Gentlemen, the House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order, please. The House will be in order. Thank you. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I come from the Show Me State, and what we just heard can be defined in one word. A bunch of hogwash is what we've heard for 8 hours on that side of the building. I'll tell you, for the 8 hours, could we have order?
We'll suspend. The House will be in order. Thank you. He's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the 8 hours of hogwash that we just heard will not change the outcome that you will see very shortly when we deliver historic tax relief for working families, small business owners, and farmers. Mr. Look. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to our great Speaker of the House, Mr. Mike Johnson.
I thank the gentleman from Missouri. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Ronald Reagan said one time that no speech should be longer than 20 minutes, and unlike the Democrat leader, I'm going to honor my colleague's time and be a little more brief than that, all right? I just want to say something that many of us learned when we were children. We were taught, you know, it takes a lot longer to build a lie than to tell the simple truth. My friends and colleagues on both sides of the aisle, we've waited long enough. Some of us have literally been up for days now. But this day is a hugely important one in the history of our nation. We have a big job to finish, and that's why we're here on the week of July 4th, just a day before now, America's birthday. It was on that fateful day, as a Democrat leader acknowledged, that our founders pledged their lives and their sacred honor to this grand experiment in self-governance that we are now here to steward. It's an experiment that falls to us to guard and to protect it. We take that very seriously on this side of the aisle. In just a few moments, we will remind the world why the American experiment still endures today and why its best days are still ahead of us.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, with one big, beautiful bill, we are going to make this country stronger, safer, and more prosperous than ever before. And every American is going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
Today, we are laying a key cornerstone of America's new golden age. Now listen, we have a few words of gratitude first. Scripture's been cited a lot this morning, I think mostly out of context, but what I will say, one thing that we know about Scripture is that we're supposed to give honor where honor is due, and that's what we do on this side of the aisle. I want to thank every single member of the House Republican Conference for pouring their time and their heart and their expertise and experience into this process. I want to thank all of our amazing staff members, all of them. Yes. Their dedication, their endless hours, their hard work made this all possible. I want to thank the White House Office of Legislative Affairs, who have basically lived with us now for the last few weeks. Their patience and persistence and their professionalism is greatly appreciated. Our country's incredible cabinet secretaries have been involved as well. They've assisted us in countless ways throughout this process. Our Vice President, J.D. Vance, helped us navigate so many dire straits along the last several weeks through the House and the Senate. And of course, our bold, visionary, fearless President, Donald J. Trump. President Trump is the creator and the champion of the America First agenda. We will deliver upon that today. We come a long way. We began this process really about 15 months ago. We had a sense and we believed that we would have unified government. We would have this moment where the Republican Party would be given control of the White House and the Senate and the House. And we determined to ourselves that we would not waste that historic opportunity. We've had spirited debates, we've had months of deliberation, and now we are finally ready to fulfill our promise to the American people. That's what we are doing today. Now, look, before I respond to the allegations from across the chamber, I just want to take us back to a day that most of us will remember so very fondly for the rest of our lives, and that's November 5th of 2024. That was Election Day, a fateful one for America. The reason that was so important, the reason it was such a turn in history is because the American people spoke with unmistakable clarity. We sensed it as we were all out campaigning. We saw that there would be a demographic shift in America, and that is exactly what the election yielded. We, in our party, had a record number of Black and African American voters come to the Republican Party. We had a record number of Hispanic and Latino voters come to the Republican Party, a record number of Jewish voters and union workers and suburban women and urban voters. They came out in record numbers to join the Republican Party and the America First agenda with President Trump. That election was decisive. It was a bellwether. It was a time for choosing. And I tell you what, the American people chose overwhelmingly. They chose the Republican Party. And the reason they did that, they didn't come hesitantly. They came with hopeful anticipation. You know why? Because this is not your father's Democratic Party, okay? They went so far, full speed, to the far left. And their radical, woke, progressive agenda, that nonsense that they tried to push on the people, was rejected by the people.
Yeah.
These new voters came to us. They had enough of the Biden-Harris madness and all the things they were trying to hoist upon the American people that they just don't believe in their hearts. And they were hopeful. They came to us with hope. They wanted us to restore common sense and accountability, and we promised to them that we would do just that. Those new demographics came to the Republican Party because of open borders wreaking havoc on their communities. They came because of weakness at home that fueled instability abroad, and because trillions in reckless spending put the price of gas and groceries further out of the reach for hardworking Americans. It wasn't right. President Trump and our Republican majority in Congress are fixing all of that right now. President Trump said this week, we're the hottest country in the world again. My friends, that is an objective truth. Hey, listen, how about all the wins for the president and this party? Here's just a sample from the last 2 weeks. The headline today will be, the one big beautiful bill passes the Congress, okay? You got to hold your applause. There's too many wins. Are you tired of winning yet? Fourth jobs report in a row exceeds expectations. A sample of the headlines. Lowest monthly border encounters in U.S. history. We closed the border. Last couple of days, a new trade deal with Vietnam and all the countries of the world, around the world lining up for that. UPenn agrees to ban biological men from women's sports. And they ought to give a personal apology to every female athlete impacted by that nonsense. Gas prices are at a 4-year low, my friends. The Air Force and Space Force both hit their 2025 recruiting goals 3 months early. Israel is agreeing to a 60-day ceasefire with Hamas. Successful strike on Iranian nuclear sites handles that problem. That's exactly right. Strength is back. America's back. It's resulted now in a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel. The NATO countries are increasing their defense spending, not just 2%, 5% of GDP, okay? The president got in charge and got a Rwanda-Congo peace deal. The Supreme Court ended nationwide injunctions. How about that? That conservative majority on the Supreme Court also allows third country deportations. We've had a record high stock market, and we're signing a China trade deal. That's just the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks. So many simple truths to share, and so little time to do it, because I want everybody to have a break here. But I just want to say this. It's really nice to hear my Democrat colleagues suddenly take an interest in working Americans again. Did you pick up on that theme today? Let's be clear. Working Americans stopped trusting Democrats a long time ago. That is a fact. They're looking to this side of the chamber. They're looking to the Republican Party and our principles to deliver the relief and the reform that they have long demanded and they most certainly deserve. This big, beautiful bill fulfills all the promises of the America First agenda. It is the people's bill. It is made for and shaped by the most diverse coalition of American voters in American history. Today, we are making the dream of a government that puts the American people first a reality. A reality. I would need this entire notebook to tell you all the great things in the big, beautiful bill. It is aptly named, but I'll just tell you a couple of the highlights. Record tax cuts for hardworking Americans. Historic savings at the same time to end reckless spending. We got energy dominance coming back to power our future. We have a secure border to protect American families. We have a strong military to restore peace through strength. And we have a government that is now accountable and responsive to the people once again. That's what we're delivering. For everyday Americans, this means real, positive change that they can feel, and they will feel much more when this bill is done. Families back home will have real relief, an average of $10,000 in their pockets, thanks to the largest working and middle-class tax cut in the history of this great nation. That's what we're doing today. You got hardworking Americans like our waiters and our bellhops and our hairstylists. They're going to keep 100% of their tips and overtime pay. That is money they earned. It does not belong to the government. It belongs to them, and they deserve to keep it. Small businesses that want to build and expand new factories, you know what they can do now? They can write off 100% of their investment. That will have us a lot more building. Young families who want to buy a home will be able to, thanks to historic savings that will put our country on a stronger financial footing. Pregnant women, children, seniors, single mothers, the disabled, and the low-income Americans among us receiving Medicaid and SNAP will have the peace of mind of knowing that we've made these safety nets stronger with our reforms. See, when Republicans are in charge, we bring common sense. We're going to make sure that Americans who do need and deserve those critical programs won't have to compete against people who can work but choose not to do so. That's not right. This bill is going to put fairness back in the system. We are returning to common sense. We're returning to what is good and decent that people know in their hearts, and that's why they support it. More Americans will be working, volunteering, and serving their communities because modest, common sense work requirements will restore dignity and purpose to those on taxpayer-funded benefits. The bill will also mean that safer streets are available in every zip code around the country because our border will remain fully and totally secure. The Republican Party stands for law and order, and this is the side that stands with law enforcement, the brave men and women who are on the front line. The idea that those who put their own lives on the line to protect us would be assaulted for doing their jobs is unconscionable. Law enforcement, I know you agree. I know, amen. Law enforcement will have the help of a border wall now that's 100% complete. Yeah! Our immigration enforcement officers will get a boost from more manpower and resources and detention space so that detained illegal aliens are not released back into the streets like they were for the last 4 years. And our homeland can rest soundly again under the protection of President Trump's Golden Dome. That's what we're investing in. Look, any of these individual achievements would be historic victories for a Republican Congress or any Congress. And today we're delivering on all of them in one big, beautiful bill. That's what Americans can count on when we pass this legislation, and that's exactly what Democrats will vote to oppose today. That's a fact. We didn't write this bill for the Democratic Party or the elites or the media. This bill is for hard-working Americans, and they deserve it. I'm gonna just say this as plainly as I can. This is a simple truth. If you're for a secure border, safer communities, and a strong military, this bill is for you. If you're for common sense fiscal responsibility and reducing the deficit, this bill is for you. If you're for fair and lower taxes, bigger paychecks, affordable gas and groceries, and restoring dignity to hard work, this is the bill for you. It makes no difference whether our colleagues on the, across the chamber speak for 25 minutes or 25 hours. They can't change the truth. And today was about performance for some of them. But today for us is about results. Results that improve the lives of Americans, regardless of their race, religion, color, or creed. It does not matter. I tell you what, Ronald Reagan used to remind us you can always trust the American people, and we do trust the American people, and they can discern the difference. What they saw.
मुरली जी के फादर का कैंसर का इलाज 3 साल चला। पॉलिसी बाजार की टीम ने उनके इलाज का 1 करोड़ का क्लेम अप्रूव करवाने में पूरी हेल्प की। बीमारी में हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस ही काम आएगा। पॉलिसी बाजार पर 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 360 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
Today, my friends, we are ready now. We are going to deliver what we were sent here to do, and every American will benefit from it. In 1793, just steps from where we stand today, President George Washington laid the first cornerstone of the United States Capitol. Over 50 years later, on July 4th again, members of this body gathered once again to lay a second cornerstone. Once more on July 4th, at the height of the Cold War, Congress laid a third cornerstone. And this week, with this vote today, on our nation's birthday being tomorrow, we lay a fourth. With this bill, we can vote as stewards of that great legacy that we have inherited in this extraordinary nation that we are blessed to live in. We can lay another sturdy foundation for the future of this country, a future where working Americans can feel relief, where government can finally start living within its means again, and where the United States is safer, stronger, and more prosperous than ever before. That's right. Now, I'm going to say this as they mock America and mock everything and mock the bill. We'll see how the people feel about that.
Yeah.
So listen, seriously, as friends and colleagues, really, across the aisle, what we celebrate tomorrow is the nation's birthday. Let's put the politics aside for a minute, and let's reflect on our blessings. No kidding, really. Tomorrow is the 249th birthday of our nation, and that's right.
USA! 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 USA!
I mean this sincerely. I thank my colleagues for standing. We all should be united in that. We are. We have squabbles, we have partisan debates and all of this, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans, man. And we gotta believe that. We gotta know it. We gotta recognize that we live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's not even close. My friends and colleagues, we are so blessed. We should not take it for granted. We live in the most free, the most successful, the most powerful, the most benevolent nation that has ever been on the face of the earth. And there's a reason for that. The reason that we are the greatest nation is because we were built on the ultimate foundation. And the bold declaration that my friend Hakeem Jeffries articulated earlier is true. We unite under that. The bold declaration that we do hold these truths to be self-evident. What is a self-evident truth? It's something that's obvious. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. It does not say born equal, it says created equal. And that it is our Creator, yes. It is our Creator that gives us our rights. See, the powerful thing about that is we're the first nation in the history of the world that acknowledged that our rights do not derive from government. They come from God Himself. You see those words up there, that motto, it says, "In God we trust," right above the speaker's rostrum. You know, a previous Congress put that there in the early 60s in the height of the Cold War. There's a little visitor's guide that people get when you do tours late at night. You've probably seen your constituents and visitors and friends get the guide. If you turn, I think it's about to page 21. It explains why that's there. And it says, Congress voted to put that there as a rebuke to the Soviets' worldview at the height of the Cold War. Why? Because communism, socialism, find their root in Marxism. And Marxism begins with the belief that there is no God. It's wrong. And this Congress made us stand those many years ago, and we should do it again. We're different, we're distinct, we're exceptional, because we acknowledge that right there, our motto. It doesn't say in government we trust. It says in God we trust. And we better remember that. He has blessed us with this grand experiment in self-governance now for almost 2.5 centuries. And by God's grace, we are working hard and we are delivering on our promise to make America great again. This is without a doubt the most important vote of this Congress, and I think this may be the most important vote that any of us take in our entire lifetimes. And everybody better remember it, however you vote today. My friends, the President of the United States is waiting with his pen. The American people are waiting for this relief. We've heard enough talk. It's time for action. Let's finish the job for him. Vote yes on the bill. With that, I yield back.
जिस चीज के लिए दिल में खास जगह हो, उसके लिए खास दिन तो बनता है। आइए बिरयानी के इस जश्न को बनाएं और मनाएं दावत वर्ल्ड बिरयानी डे। आएंगे ना? Come, celebrate दावत वर्ल्ड बिरयानी डे with me. दावत, bring out your finest.
कोई आखिरी ख्वाहिश? इंडिया के मैच का लास्ट ओवर चल रहा होगा, अगर वो दिखा देते तो।
ये स्मार्ट टीवी बड़ा स्लो है, जब तक ये चालू होगा तब तक तो तेरा
फायर टीवी स्टिक है ना।
अब स्मार्ट टीवी बनेगा फास्ट, हर ख्वाहिश होगी पूरी, बस फायर टीवी स्टिक लगाना है जरूरी।
The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition? Vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
इस सेलिब्रेशन के मौसम में अब आपकी चमक बढ़ेगी 30% और भी ज्यादा। मलाबार गोल्ड एंड डायमंड्स के सेलिब्रेशन ऑफर के साथ सभी गोल्ड और जेमस्टोन ज्वेलरी के मेकिंग चार्ज पर पाएं 30% की फ्लैट छूट। और इतना ही नहीं, डायमंड वैल्यू पर 30% तक की आकर्षक छूट। अब सुनहरे लम्हों को बनाएं और भी खास मलाबार के साथ।
हर त्योहार में आपके साथ।
मालाबार